red shirt because this is the Raw review for the 25th anniversary show, and what a fucking bore fest this was. Oh my god. Guys, I've been watching WWE since WrestleMania 3. And at no point have I ever thought they have lost touch with their fan base more than yesterday. You have this hugely promoted show. Okay, you've got a lot of people tuning in. They want to see their stars from the Attitude Era. They want, hopefully a couple of decent matches in there. The whole thing was horrible. Absolutely horrible. There were very few exceptions to that. Very few. So you start off, Shane McMahon, Stephanie McMahon, they come down to the ring, they're talking about Raw 25 years, and they have this huge clip where they're showing everything from the past 25 years. Okay. So, of course, none of this is possible without their dad, after they finish the big intro, and then Vince McMahon comes out. And everybody's, chanting, "Thank you, Vince." And of course he goes right into his heel shtick. He's like, "I don't owe you guys anything," talking about the family. "I don't owe the fans anything." Because Shane and Stephanie got him a plaque. And he starts making a bunch of jokes about plaque and how plaque is what you see on your teeth and, in your veins. So, does his usual bit. And of course, totally predictable, because we all knew Stone Cold was going to be on. You hear the glass shatter, out comes Stone Cold Steve Austin. Vince McMahon's talking about, "I'm 72 years old, I'm not the same guy I was, I'm a senior citizen, blah blah blah." And feeds Shane McMahon to Steve Austin instead. Steve Austin goes to shake Shane's hand, holds his arm up, they do a spin around the ring, and of course Steve Austin stuns Shane McMahon, drinks a beer with Vince, and then of course turns around, stuns Vince, and Vince still does the absolute worst stunner that I've ever seen anybody take. So it was a cool segment because, let's face it, of the whole 25 years of Raw, that was the feud. Stone Cold versus Vince McMahon. The only thing with that is it was totally predictable. I knew Steve Austin was going to come out long before he did. You hear the glass shatter, no surprise. He stuns everybody, no surprise. Was it a cool moment? Yes, because it's Steve Austin and he was the biggest part of the Attitude Era. But there was no surprise there. And from there, the show just fell. So after the whole opening segment bit, you have Sasha Banks, Bayley, Mickie James, and Asuka, and they're taking on Nia Jax, Sonya Deville, Mandy Rose, and Alicia Fox. And the whole match was decent, I guess. The biggest thing with me was Sasha Banks finally gets one of the girls in the Banks statement, I forget which one. So the faces win, and then Asuka immediately goes to throwing all of her team over the top rope, suggesting she's going to win the Battle Royal. So that was kind of a cool moment. Okay, they're definitely pushing Asuka there, which I like. I think Asuka should be pushed, and we'll see how far that goes, but who knows. Then there's this corny bit with Kurt Angle in his office, and people keep knocking on the door, and different stars from the past come in, and of course most of them are Who Cares stars. Harvey Whippleman came in, and the Boogeyman at the end eating worms, and Brother Love, and of course that was just corny as you could possibly get. So, that was definitely trying to aim towards the much older demographic who used to watch, in the 80s. And of course, most people nowadays, it's going to be completely lost on them who most of those people are anyway. And for the older fans, it's cheesy. It is. It was corny. It was a stupid bit to put in, honestly. And then we go to The Undertaker. They're talking about his career, and yes, he was a huge part of Raw for the 25 years. But he comes in, he says, I've laid a path of destruction and might not be over. And that was it. I don't know. I think it was, I don't want to say a wasted spot, but it's something that they could have done a lot better with. I mean, you're bringing in The Undertaker, and that's all you have for him. Come on now. So not the best at all. And then after that, they bring out a bunch of the general managers that have been in Raw over time, and they end with Daniel Bryan. And they bring out John Laurinaitis, who of course gets a bunch of boos because it's John Laurinaitis. William Regal, Bischoff got a pretty big pop, and then Daniel Bryan, of course, gets a big pop. And that leads directly into Daniel Bryan standing there, he's soaking it all in, and The Miz walks by and they have a nice little face-off. And The Miz walks down to the ring for his match, which is against Roman Reigns for the IC title. Very, very, very cool moment, I will say. The match itself wasn't that great. You have the standard heel moments, which I thought were pretty well done. I mean, you had the interference by The Miz to Raj, and Miz unwrapping buckle pads so the turnbuckle's exposed. And that is eventually what happens, is Roman Reigns finally does a charge, headbutts that ring, and then Miz does a skull-crushing finale and wins the IC title for the 8th time. So now there's only one person, Chris Jericho, who's had more IC title reigns. And I really like this because we all know how much of a fan of Roman Reigns I'm not. But on top of that, I mean, Miz is just a great part of Monday Night Raw. And say what you will about any part of his ability, the guy is damn good on a microphone. And he can carry a decent match. And, I've seen him take some pretty good shots and, keep going. So it's not like he's a weak guy. So I really appreciate that. I really did like that they gave Miz the title again. I think he, above anybody, has earned it. And especially Roman Reigns, dude. I'm sorry. Not a fan. Probably never will be. Although, I will say, in his defense, he actually did a real quick promo with Charlie, I think it was, Charlie Caruso. And he had a little bit of personality there, which is something you just don't get from him a whole lot. So, I'll give him half credit for that promo. Anyway, now we move on to Christian is here. Unfortunately, Edge wasn't. Don't know if there was a scheduling conflict or if he just didn't want to come, whatever the case may be. I'm pretty sure there was a reason he didn't show up. Which was sad for me, because I really, really, really wanted to see the Hardys, the Dudleys, and Edge and Christian in the ring at the same time. But Edge wasn't there, so it wouldn't have been right to put them all in the ring without Edge. So Christian does the Peep Show with Jason Jordan and Seth Rollins. And literally the fans were booing Jason Jordan like they booed Roman Reigns after WrestleMania beating The Undertaker. Anytime he started to talk, the crowd just booed him shut. And then finally, you have Cesaro and Sheamus. They come out and they start roughing up Jason Jordan. Seth Rollins gets involved. And there's a spot where Jason is on the inside of the ring. Seth is on the outside apron. Jumps up on the rope because Jason is holding Cesaro. Cesaro moves and Seth Rollins hits Jason Jordan. So that was, kind of a nice little build up there because something's going to happen there, obviously. And then Cesaro and Sheamus are laughing outside of the ring. And then comes to probably one of my more disappointing moments of the entire night. And that is Bray Wyatt versus Matt Hardy. Now let me be clear. I do like Bray Wyatt. I do. I think he is really, really great on a microphone. And he can carry on a match. He can make it look decent. But Matt Hardy, man, and his Woken gimmick, they are just not giving that a chance. They're not. And I knew that was going to happen. I knew they were going to keep burying him. And sure enough, Matt Hardy comes out, gets beat clean by Bray Wyatt. Pissed me off. It really did. This is something that they really could work with and try to build up. And of course they're not. They're just too stupid for that. So, it's back to burying Matt, which sucks. I mean, his gimmick has not been the same since brought to WWE. I mean, he had the whole broken gimmick. And now they're doing this woken shtick that is just, like I said, it's a lot cleaner. Part of the fun of the broken gimmick was it was just dirty and gritty and almost homemade looking. And he really was able to sell himself, and he doesn't get that in WWE. So, hugely disappointed there. Hugely disappointed. It really shows how out of touch WWE is. You have the fans clamoring for this guy, and on your 25th anniversary, you're going to bury him. Stupid. So, then they come and they show the top women wrestlers of the past 25 years. And the first two they bring out are Nikki and Brie Bella. Are you fucking kidding me? Nikki and Brie Bella, top wrestlers of the top 25 years, of the last 25 years? No. Hell no. Just because they're putting John Cena and Daniel Bryan collectively inside them doesn't make them anything. They are pointless. They've always been pointless. Nobody has ever thought that they are good wrestlers. They are the epitome of the Divas division, is what they are. Yeah, that made me sick. And then you bring out, some of the classics, Tori Wilson, Kelly Kelly, Jacqueline, and finally Trish Stratus. And at least Trish Stratus, when she came in, she was just this beautiful woman, fitness model, but she eventually took the time to really get into the craft and got better as a wrestler. She wasn't the best wrestler when she came in, and she'll be the first to admit that. But she took the time to get better. Whereas the Bellas, no, not really. And honestly, there are a couple other girls in there that came out that are, were just eye candy. And, I'm really glad we're moving away from that and getting into the Charlotte Flairs, the Sasha Bankses, the Asukas. I mean, this is what I want to see. Becky Lynch's, that's what I'm looking for when I see the women's division now. I don't necessarily want the cutest face. I want somebody that can perform in the ring. And then, one of the highlights of the show was a backstage segment where Elias walks into Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, of course, is going to get a pop, especially after his match with Kenny Omega. He's still carrying that look that he had in New Japan. So, there was a bit where Chris Jericho is saying, hey, can I, sing a song for you, and can I use your guitar? And Elias is like, no, and Jericho's like, okay, I brought my own, sings this song dissing Elia, and then he says, just kidding, and then finally he goes, you made the list, and your stupid scarf too. Pretty cool segment. And then Elias, next commercial break after that, he's in the ring, and he's singing a song dissing all the older guys, and John Cena. Of course, John Cena comes out, and I was expecting John Cena to have a match and win and bury someone else. And actually, thankfully, that didn't happen. Elias was going to walk out of the ring because John Cena took his shirt off. He's like, do something. Elias starts walking. John Cena starts walking the other way, the opposite direction. Elias turns around. They have this bit where it looks like John Cena's going to bury him because he ducks an attack. He does a couple of shoulder blocks. And drops him down, does a 5-knuckle shovel. And then he's going for an AA, and Elias drops down and just gives him a low blow. John Cena drops, Elias walks out, grabs a guitar, slams it into John Cena's back, does his finishing move, and Elias walks out strong. So that was kind of cool. That was better than it should have been. Then you have Apollo Crews and Titus O'Neil versus Rhino and Heath Slater. And the Dudley Boys come out, and they're kind of doing their shtick, and then I forget who throws Heath Slater in. I don't know if it was Rhino or Titus O'Neil and Apollo Crews, but either way, Heath Slater gets thrown into the ring, and you know, they're doing their what's up thing, and Bubba Ray Dudley jumps off the top rope, hits him with the, low headbutt, and then they pull out a table and do the 3D on the table, which was a pretty cool spot. Like I said, I was really sad that Edge wasn't there because Jeff Hardy was there. You obviously had Matt Hardy, you got the Dudley Boys, you got Christian. The only piece missing was Edge, and I really wanted to see that reunion, but with him not there, that just wouldn't be the same. So, but that was kind of a cool spot that they did with the Dudley Boys, Everybody likes to see somebody go through the table, so kind of cool. Then, just before the commercial break, you hear that DX is coming next. And it was the typical shit. I mean, Shawn Michaels starts talking immediately about all the stuff that they can't talk about. And, he starts bringing up, something that they did with it. It was pretty questionable of character. And then Triple H would put his hand over the microphone. Oh, we can't talk about that. And then Shawn Michaels makes a joke about how he used to be the leader of DX and now Triple H is the leader of everything. So there was a couple of funny moments in there. And then Triple H does his shtick about how they're all there for the fans, but they didn't come alone. And then they bring out Road Dogg and Mr. Ass, and then they bring out X-Pac, and then they bring out Scott Hall, and then they go to commercial. And so they're all doing their, old lines and shit like that. And eventually, I think it was Scott Hall comes out and he's like, this is just too sweet, and they do the too sweet thing. And then the Balor Club comes out, Finn Balor, Gallows, and Anderson. And they walk out there, and since the too sweet thing is kind of the Balor Club thing too, all the guys do it, and they wind up, in unison, kind of doing the too sweet thing. So that was kind of a moment, I guess. And then they get interrupted by the Revival because the Revival has a match with Gallows and Anderson. So they go straight into that match, and not much of a match at all, honestly. It's almost a squash match. Gallows and Anderson win. And then they use the Revival to get their butts handed to them by the rest of DX. So they start out, one of the dudes spins around Scott Hall. Scott Hall throws the toothpick, and then X-Pac does his thing. Jesse James does his little rope-a-dope punches. Mr. Ass hits him with the Famouser. And then the other guy from Revival gets up off the mat and then walks straight into a Shawn Michaels super kick, and Triple H does the pedigree on him. And Finn Balor at the end does his coup de grace. So it was kind of cool to see Finn Balor actually with those guys. Hopefully that'll give him a little bit more push. I definitely think he deserves it. And that brings you to the final bit of the night, which is Lesnar, Kane, Braun Strowman, which was really kind of poorly done. You have Braun Strowman comes out first, and then a line of wrestlers walk out, and they're supposed to keep everybody separate. Kane comes into the ring, and they're just, standing in between these two and trying to keep everybody from going at each other. And then Paul Heyman comes out, introduces Brock Lesnar, and then everybody just leaves the ring and leaves Braun and Kane in the ring. And of course they start going at it anyway. Brock Lesnar immediately goes after Braun and Kane, takes them both down, knocks Braun down outside of the ring, goes into the ring, gets Kane, puts him in an F5, and then Braun gets a hold of Brock Lesnar and just wrecks shop. Flings him into the barricade. Like, that throw was impressive, I'm not gonna lie. And then picks up Brock Lesnar, does Braun Strowman, and then power slams him onto the table. Table crashes, of course. And that's where you're left with Monday Night Raw. With Braun Strowman standing tall. They're still building up the perfect beast. So, but for a show that was, like I said, pushed this hard, they did not much with it at all. They had IC title change. I did like that. They buried Matt Hardy. I thought that was stupid, and it's not that I don't like Bray Wyatt. He's amazing. But, you know, that Woken gimmick is just still over as can be, and they're not doing anything with it. Sometimes I really question WWE. And so, I mean, really, there were, like 3 or 4 matches, and most of them pointless, honestly. The Revival versus Gallows and Anderson was a squash match. Apollo Crews and Titus O'Neil versus Rhino and Heath Slater didn't even go to anywhere. I mean, you know, Dudley's came out, which was cool, but so Bray Wyatt versus Matt Hardy made me ill. And 4-woman tag match for the women's division. They had the cool spot where Asuka's throwing her own team over the top rope at the end, and all these other little bits in between, like, honestly, were just so poorly done. They didn't write anything out. It's like, it literally seems like they're last minute trying to figure out what they're doing and just throwing something together. And that's how that show looked to me. Like, they had no idea what they were doing with any of these major stars from the past. I mean, it was sad to see, honestly. They had a bit where the APA was in the back and they're, you know, doing their old bit where they're playing cards, and you got a bunch of old and new celebrity, you know, walking in there and playing with them, and a lot of jokes about Heath Slater racking up a huge debt, and sometimes pretty corny, a couple of times a little bit funny, but it really went nowhere. The APA never came out and hit anybody up, or, you know, it just incredibly poorly done all the way through. They, I mean, at least should have had them built up to where they get, you know, a clothesline from hell and a spine buster or something. I mean, come on. But nope. And that's just where WWE is nowadays. It sucks. I lose more interest every day, honestly. And, you know, I try to keep watching because I've been such a fan for so long, and there are parts that I do like at times. But, I mean, if I have to say it like that, then you know there's a problem with the product. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Raw review for the Raw 25th anniversary. I think they could have done a lot more than they did. I think they should have done a lot more than they did. So, that is my review. Ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you guys think of the show in the comments. Is there anything that you liked that I didn't? Or, you know, do you agree that they really did not put a lot of effort into this show? If you like this, hit the like button, subscribe, and share. My name is Kevin Jackowitz. Cage Nation, out.